How's it going, my friends? I'm Skwizzit. Can you beat Pokemon Emerald version with only Slakoth? I'm honestly not too sure how this run will go, but I think it's safe to say that it's gonna be a really tough challenge. For this to be considered a challenge, I've given myself a list of rules. Number 1, I can only use Slakoth in battle. Number 2, other Pokemon can be used outside of battle for the sole purpose of HMs. Number 3, no items in battle. Number 4, no glitches or exploits, and for this run, I'm adding one more rule. Number 5, no attract or double team. I can't teach him to slack off. Alright. First things first, I swapped out Trico with Slakoth. This, in turn, will force my rival to take Torchic, which I thought would be the hardest to beat. I saved my game before taking Slakoth and immediately start soft resetting the game in order to get a Slakoth with my preferred nature. I thought this would be a good step to take because of how difficult this challenge will likely be. With that, now is a great time to talk a little bit about Slakoth. Slakoth is a pure normal type Pokemon with stats that have a little left to be desired. Slakoth's HP, attack, and defense stats are all passable at a base of 60, but its other 3 base stats are awful. I won't need special attack, so that being low won't affect this run. Slakoth's special defense stat, on the other hand, is quite awful, so I need to watch out for incoming special attacks. His speed stat is the most displeasing sight to behold here. A base speed stat of 30 is absolutely abysmal, physically painful to see. The moves it's able to learn by level up are doo-doo. It looks like I'll be stuck with Scratch and Feint Attack until I'm able to get my hands on the HM for Strength. The only things that are slightly redeeming about Slakoth are the TMs and HMs it can learn. Return is a great stab move, Shadow Ball is a powerful and very useful coverage option, then Brick Break is an okay fighting type attack to have access to. I know it might not sound like it, but I absolutely love Slakoth. In fact, Slakoth, Vigoroth, and Slaking are probably my favorite Gen 3 Pokemon. What's your favorite Gen 3 Pokemon? I finally get the nature I want on Slakoth after only 4 soft resets. All things considered, I'm glad to see that snagging my preferred nature went quickly. I nicknamed Slakoth Sid, and let's take a look at his stats. Sid has an adamant nature which boosts his attack and lowers his special attack. I figured hitting harder would be my best bet during this run, and I really need to stay away from special attacks anyway. Adamant is perfect. Sid's ability Truant is an abomination. Sid will only be able to act every other turn. This is obviously quite the issue, so I'll address this as the run progresses. Sid's stats look to be as expected, decent attack and very lackluster speed. He starts out with Scratch and Yawn, so at least Scratch has the same type attack bonus, so at least there's that. Let's do this. Sid and I start our journey to become Hoenn's Pokemon League champions, except we don't. I genuinely fear how this run is going to turn out. I want to take every step that I can to make this as easy on myself as possible. After heading to the Oldale Town Pokemon Center, I glue myself to Route 101 and EV train Sid's attack and HP stats. I need to hit as hard as possible, so I have to get 252 attack EVs to max out that stat. That means I need to find and KO 252 Poochyenas. I figure HP EVs are my second best bet, so Sid takes hits better during loaf-around turns. That means I also have to find and KO 252 Wurmples to max out HP. Roughly about 5 to 6 hours later, this is what Sid's stats are looking like now. Attack and HP are looking pretty good, so I'm fairly content with that. I know it looks like Sid is way over leveled, but trust me, everything catches up to me very quickly. Time to take on Roxanne, or at least give it a shot. I'm excited to say that the battle with Roxanne went really well. By the time I get into Rustboro City, Sid is already level 20 and has the move Feint Attack. Feint Attack is a dark type move, which means it's a special attack in Generation 3. Unfortunately, I'm not using any physical attacks that I just EV trained all the way up for, but that's okay. Geodudes are easily going down to a bunch of Feint Attacks and only going for defense curls raising their physical defenses, so I thought using Feint Attack would be my best option here, and it turned out to be the case. After her Geodudes go down pretty easily, Nosepass comes out and it's fairly tanky. It takes Sid's Feint Attacks really well because Sid has like 0 special attack, which is unfortunate, but eventually it works out. Unfortunately, Nosepass is holding an Oranberry, and Roxanne has access to 1 potion. This does prolong the battle quite a bit, but I'm not too worried about it because Feint Attack is doing a comfortable amount of damage to Nosepass. On top of that, I'm naturally able to keep myself a little more healthy than usual because of Slakoth, so occasionally, in between Feint Attacks, I'll pop the quick Slakoth to heal myself up. Sid finally takes down Nosepass, and it's time to head to Dewford. Before I attempt the battle with Brawly, I head next door and I'm given the Silk Scarf by a very kind individual. Thank you, sir. This will boost Sid's normal type attacks by 10%. I give it to Sid and now it's time to battle Brawly. Brawly is a menace. Machop lands a bunch of super effective fighting type attacks that whittle down Sid really quickly to almost nothing. But Meditite is the real issue. After knocking out Machop, Truant really rears its ugly little head for the first time in such a bad way. Meditite's able to set up a focus punch and I'm loafing around so I can't hit it and knock it out of its focus. So in turn, Meditite knocks Sid out with a huge focus punch to his lazy face. I think I need to head to Slateport for now and come back to Brawly when I'm a little bit stronger. I come back to battle Brawly a second time after Sid hits level 25. Unfortunately, it goes just about the same way it went the first time. Machop is able to set up a bulk up, Brawly heals it with a super potion, and he's able to hit me with some damage before I take him down with a scratch. Naturally, when Brawly's Meditite comes out, Sid is loafing around because I just took down Machop. Unfortunately, Focus Punch being as strong as it is, takes down Sid with no issue, for free. This is the first time Meditite's ever been an issue in a run, and I make fun of it every time, but now I'm paying for that. I'm gonna have to grind some more and see what I could do. Just north of Slateport City, and during this grind session, I run into a couple of trainers that each have a Plusle and a Minun. I didn't think much of it going into the battles, but these battles were brutal. Plusle and Minun would hit Sid with Thunder Waves and Growls until it became a chore just to get some decent damage in against these filthy rats. Sid would loaf around and then be fully paralyzed, but when Sid would finally be able to land a scratch thanks to Growl, the damage was pitiful. The Plusles and Minuns were essentially such a nuisance because they all outsped Sid, even with Sid having such a huge level lead. At this point, I was really regretting my choice of grinding for HP EVs instead of speed EVs. Being this early in the game, I didn't have access to EV reducing berries either. I knew there was a huge problem here, so I did what any other sane person would do to fix this. I restarted the game. I go through the exact same process at the beginning of the game again. Soft reset for an adamant-natured Slakoth and EV train. This time, instead of Poochyenas and Wurmples, I fought Poochyenas and Zigzagoons. Finding Zigzagoons took quite a bit longer than Wurmples, so naturally, this took a long time. But it was worth it. I catch up to where I was before the reset, and here are Sid's stats now. His HP is a bit lower, but his speed is looking a whole lot better. I took out every trainer I could north of Slateport without battling my rival and hit level 32. I actually did some rough damage calculations for the battle against Brawly, and it seems like I might be able to pull this off now that Sid is level 32. Let's go. Brawly attempt number 3 goes much smoother. Machop goes down to 1 scratch. On my loaf around turn, Meditite goes for bulk up instead of focusing a focus punch, which is crazy, so it goes down to 1 scratch as well. Last but not least is Makuhita. On its free turn, it goes for a bulk up, which sucks because scratch isn't going to do as much, so it doesn't take it down in 1 shot. A Vital Throw does almost half as it heals up with its Oran Berry, hits me with another Vital Throw, and I'm able to take it down in 1 more crit scratch. Alright. That was an issue, man. Let's take on Rival 2. May leads with Wingull, and it goes down to 1 scratch. Next up is Combusken, and using its free turn, it goes for Double Kick, which does a pretty decent amount of damage to Sid. I hit it with a scratch, but it lives, so it goes for a Focus Energy, and next turn it goes for a free Ember, critting and doing a ton of damage. Luckily, it goes down. Last but not least is Lombre. Lombre uses Nature Power on its free turn, and it only does 5 damage, so I crit it with a scratch and take down Lombre for a victory. Next up is Electric Gym Leader Watson. My first attempt at battling Watson was a little miserable. Voltorb goes down easily enough to 1 scratch, but Electrike comes in. Electrike has the ability Static, so when I make contact and knock it out with Scratch, it paralyzes Sid. So of course that's an issue, but Magneton is the bigger issue and everybody knew that was gonna be the case. It takes down Sid really quick. Time to grind and think of a new strategy. The trainers surrounding Mauville City are a pretty good source of experience, so they're going to be fine to grind against. My new strategy is this. I really need to take down Watson's Magneton with moves that aren't very effective against it, so there's one way I could do this. I beat Brawly and he gave me the TM for Bulk Up. I'm going to teach Sid Bulk Up and see how that goes. Maybe set up against something and then I'll be strong enough to at least 2-shot Magneton. But there's one last important thing. I need to make it past Electrike without it hitting me with that static ability. I can't be paralyzed for Magneton. But that's not up to me, so let's go ahead and try out Watson again with Bulk Up. This took several more attempts, but I finally got one good attempt that I was comfortable with against Watson. I had to take down Voltorb because I didn't want it to self-destruct, and I decided to set up a couple of Bulk Ups against Electrike as it goes for Howls. It does end up hitting me with a Shockwave that does a little bit of damage, but I'm looking pretty good. Second Bulk Up is up, I'm going to loaf around, and then take down Electrike with a Scratch. No paralysis, we're looking good. But of course, Magneton comes in and paralyzes me with a Thunder Wave right away. It misses a Supersonic luckily, and Scratch does a pretty decent amount of damage. I can live with that. It hits me with 2 Shockwaves as Scratch takes it down. So last but not least is Manectric. Oh boy. Luckily it goes for 2 Howls as I take it down with a single +2 Scratch. Look at that. Level 38 taking down Watson. It took a while, but we did it. With the third badge, I finally have access to the HM for strength. I reunite this beautiful couple that's stuck in a cave by smashing a rock, and the man graciously hands over the HM for strength. I immediately teach it to Sid. No hesitation. On my way north towards Fall Arbor Town, I don't hesitate to seek out every single trainer for extra experience. It's seek and destroy time, baby. I know I'm gonna need it sooner or later. It's safe to say from here on out I don't skip a single trainer, and if I have to go out of my way to find more trainers, I definitely do that. No trainer left undefeated in this run. I do, however, run into a trainer that becomes quite an issue. Right outside of Fall Arbor Town, there's a bird keeper that has a Skarmory and a Swellow. I don't have anything to hit Skarmory for neutral damage with, and it keeps blasting Sid with sand attacks, lowering his accuracy. After Skarmory, Swellow comes out and uses Double Team. It almost takes down Sid, but Sid ends up pulling through. This was a super problematic random trainer battle that I just had to share. Next up is Maxie. On my way up to Maxie on that cable car lift thingamajiggy, I actually saw this little dude on the mountain. Thought that was pretty neat. Maxie ends up being really easy. Strength is gonna take down Mightyena after he heals it up with a super potion, and I'm done loafing around. He only hits me with a bite. Next up is Zubat, and it gets one free wing attack. It should have used Confuse Ray, that would have been worse, but one strength is gonna take it down. Last but not least is his Camerupt, and Camerupt doesn't end up burning me with 2 embers, so I'm grateful for that. It'll go down after a super potion to another strength. Well, after loafing around. Time to take that meteorite back to Verdanturf Town. Let's do this. I bring back the stolen meteorite to its rightful owner, Professor Cosmo in Verdanturf Town. In return for the meteorite, he gives me the TM for return. This is gonna be Sid's best stab move throughout the whole run, so naturally, I immediately teach it to him. I'm gonna take this newfound power to Flannery. Let's go. The battle with Flannery is an interesting one to say the least. Numel goes down to 1 return naturally because return is so dang powerful, and I need it. Slugma hits me with a Smog that does pitiful damage and doesn't poison me, so I hit it with return and take it out. First 2 Pokemon were easy enough, but Camerupt comes in. Uses an overheat and that does tons of damage to Sid, unfortunately. I use Slakoth to try and stay healthy, and the idea here is to have Camerupt use 3 overheats to lower its special attack as far down as it could go. With each subsequent overheat, I could take the following overheat a lot easier. Camerupt does eventually get herself to that point as I'm healing up with Slakoths and bulking up for Torkoal. Torkoal has a base defense stat of like 140, so I need a couple bulk ups to one-shot that thing before it takes me out with an overheat. Now, with Camerupt's special attack being as low as it is, it finally hits me with an Attract, and I absolutely despise this. This is probably going to be tough to watch, so I'll speed it up. As Truant and Attract are doing their things and making it almost impossible for Sid to even participate in this battle, here's the plan. I really need to be healthy for Torkoal, so I'm using Slakoth when I get really low on HP. If I'm comfortable enough to go for a return, now that I'm boosted up by Bulk Up, I can take out Camerupt in 1 hit. At the same time, I also need to be aware that the sunlight is up, and when the sunlight goes down, Camerupt just goes for another sunny day, which will then boost up the power of Torkoal's overheat, which is really scary. It gets really close at some point, but eventually I do get healthy enough to where I'm comfortable enough to go for a return and knock out Camerupt in 1 hit. After that crazy long battle with Camerupt, Torkoal is Flannery's last Pokemon. It hits me with an overheat, dealing almost all of my health and damage, which is crazy. Luckily, a return takes it down in 1 shot after those bulk up boosts. That took a very long time, but I'm glad it was a 1 attempt Flannery. Let's go to Norman now. Norman's lead Spinda goes down to a single return. Slacking is coming in a bit early and he's next up, and we are desynced when it comes to our Truant abilities, which means when he moves, I don't move, when I move, he moves. That means he can't hit me with counter because there's nothing to counter, which is super nice. I know it's scary, but I use this Slacking to set up a couple of bulk ups, that way when I can hit it, I one-shot it. He ends up putting me to sleep with Yawn, which is a little problematic, but luckily Sid was able to set up 2 bulk ups to kind of mitigate the damage incoming from Slacking's huge attacks. Naturally, I wake up a couple turns later and one-shot Slacking with a return, boosted by 2 bulk ups. Next up is Vigoroth. He hits me with a feint attack for his free turn, outspeeds Sid to hit me with another one, and I KO it with return. It drops like a fly. Next up, and last but not least, is Linoon. It hits me with a slash, luckily doesn't get the crit twice in a row, and it goes down to a single return as well. A first attempt Flannery and a first attempt Norman? I'll take what I could get. Let's head toward Fortree City. After completing the Weather Institute, I'm rewarded with a cast form. Yeah! Time for another rival battle. Mace Pelipper is probably the most annoying part of this battle. Naturally, it uses Protect, and then it hits me with a Supersonic. Uses another Protect, so I can't hit it. I hit myself in confusion. And it does a lot because Slacking's defense is a lot lower than its attack. I hit it with a return finally after I snap out of confusion, and it goes down. Next up is the scary Combusken. It hits me with a double kick for free, and I thought it would do a lot more damage than that. I then KO it with a return. Last but not least is May's Lombre. Of course, this thing's no issue. It uses Fake Out for free, which doesn't matter because I wasn't going to move anyway, and a return's going to take it down. Not bad. It's time for Winona. With the Winona battle, I know I'm going to have to set up bulk ups because she has a Skarmory. Swablu is not the one to set up bulk ups against. Sid gets hit with a Perish Song, and in 3 turns I'm going down because this is my only Pokemon. Them's the rules, baby. To be fair, in every other run, I take out Swablu so quick that I didn't even know it had access to Perish Song. I'm not quite sure why I didn't soft reset here, but Tropius goes down, Swablu comes back in to stare into my soul as Sid faints. Several attempts later, I come to the conclusion that setting up bulk ups for Skarmory would be the best in front of Skarmory. So naturally, I take down Swablu in 1 hit, Tropius hits me with a light attack, and I take it down in 1 return as well. Next up is Pelipper, and she likes to go for Supersonics to confuse Sid. That's terrible, but she also likes to go for Protects on the turns I can move. Anyway, I hit myself in confusion, it hits me with a Water Gun, with a crit, I snap out of confusion, heal myself back up, get hit with another Water Gun, and luckily, dodge a Supersonic to take out Pelipper with 1 return. A nightmare. Next up is Winona's problematic Skarmory, and I'm going to speed this one up just like Flannery's camera up because it takes forever. I go for a bunch of bulk ups as Skarmory hits me with a ton of sand attacks. After some bulk ups under my belt, her Steel Wing isn't doing much damage to Sid. With that being the case though, Steel Wing still has a chance to raise her defense stat. That's a problem because I'm using these bulk ups to do more damage to Skarmory. And although her Steel Wings aren't doing very much to Sid because of bulk up, I still have those Truant turns and I've been hit with tons of sand attacks so I can't land a hit. I finally get to land a couple hits while I'm healthy to take out Skarmory. This was an absolute nightmare. Now, all I have to do is hopefully land an attack on Altaria after getting hit by all those sand attacks from Skarmory. Luckily for me, Altaria comes in and just starts dancing in front of Sid. I like that. You're giving me a huge opportunity to finally land a return and knock you out. And there it is. Thank you very much, Winona, for throwing that battle. Time for me to start heading towards Lily Cove City. On my way there, I unfortunately ran into this trainer that has 1 single Sableye. I have nothing to hit it with, so I have to let it KO me. That was funny. Anyway, on my way through Mount Pyre, I go ahead and pick up the TM for Shadow Ball and teach it to Sid. This will help a lot with Tate and Liza, as well as Phoebe in the Elite Four. The battle with Maxie at the Team Magma hideout was extremely easy. Mightyana's Intimidate does cut my attack by 1 stage, but I use a bulk up to put it back up to neutral. After that, I have Sid go for 3 returns, and it one-shots each of his 3 Pokemon. I'm really glad that was an easy battle because we're on to a tough one, Tate and Liza. Ugh. To even attempt the battle with Tate and Liza, I had to bring a sacrifice, so I brought my obligatory Wingull nicknamed Fly. I tried this battle 8 times and lost each and every single attempt. They weren't exactly terrible losses, but they were losses nonetheless. For this battle to go my way, I needed the opponent's Pokemon to use a very specific string of moves. I also had to figure out the best order in which to knock them out. After my 8th failed attempt at level 65, I headed to Shoal Cave to craft a Shell Bell. That should help out with Sid's longevity quite a bit. I also grind a few levels to hit a bit harder. At level 68, it's time for attempt number 9. For attempt number 9, I'm not going to go move by move, but instead I'm going to explain what needs to happen. At level 68, Xatu can no longer outspeed Sid, and Claydol is now a guaranteed one-shot with a Shadow Ball. For this run, I need to KO Claydol first, then Lunatone, then Xatu, and lastly Solrock. I want them to go down in this order because I need Xatu to spam a combo of Calm Minds and Sunny Days in order for me to win this battle. It's safe to say that I got extremely lucky during this attempt, and the AI worked with me incredibly well. Tate and Liza made every move I needed them to make in order for me to win. I expected a lot more attempts than 9, but we take those. I can't believe Sid pulled this one off. Absolutely incredible. Anyway, next up is Archie. I'm not quite sure I want to say this, but Archie took me 2 attempts, and that's embarrassing. It took me 2 because on the first attempt, Crobat goes for a Confuse Ray and completely destroyed me. It was very sad, but this time Mightyena goes down easily. Crobat went down easily to a return, and Sharpedo's paper-thin defenses don't mean anything, so it also goes down to a return. Damn it, Archie, making me look bad, man. Groudon and Kyogre dance under the rain, celebrating life on Earth. It's great. What a beautiful display. Seriously. I find myself in Sootopolis City and grab the TM for Brick Break just in case I need it later. Now, it's time to battle Hoenn, the Water Gym leader. Hoenn leads with his Love Disc and it immediately goes down to one of Sid's returns. Next up is Whiscash, and Whiscash is fairly bulky. As I loaf around, he goes for an Amnesia. I love that. Don't attack me. I go for a bulk up as it goes for a rain dance. Yet again, he doesn't attack me. I'm gonna loaf around one more time as it sets up one more amnesia, leaving me to take it out with a return on the following turn. I went for that bulk up so I could guarantee a one-shot on the rest of his team if I hit. Next up is Celio, and unfortunately Celio hits Sid with a water pulse boosted by the rain. It does a fair amount of damage to Sid as I take it down with a return. Next up is Crawdaunt, and Crawdaunt has very paper-thin defenses. The rain stops and it hits me with a crab hammer that would have been worse with the rain up, but it goes down to one return as well. Last but not least is his Kingdra. Kingdra starts setting up double teams, and of course I can't land an attack, but Hoenn gets way too greedy and goes for 4 double teams in a row, and luckily, Sid nails him with a return on the 4th turn. Nice. With Hoenn out of the way and my 8th gym badge, I can now head through Victory Road. Wally didn't know what was in store for him, so he stops me in Victory Road. I top Brick Break to Sid just before this battle because I know Wally has a Magneton. I go for a return on Altaria and take it out in one shot. Delcatty falls to a Brick Break, and next is Magneton. Magneton is probably the biggest issue, but he opts to only hit me with a Thunderbolt that does a pretty decent amount of damage, then he falls to a Brick Break. Next up is Roselia, and Roselia is just really frail, at least on the physical side. So it hits me with a Leech Seed, and of course I am taking residual damage over time here, but it only has one more Pokemon left after Roselia goes down to a return. That Pokemon is Gardevoir. Gardevoir comes out and wastes its free turn going for a Future Sight instead of an attack that actually hits me on the same turn. So after I'm done loafing around, I do take it out with one return, so that's it for Wally, and that's the last we'll see of him in this run. Ha! I'm glad that's over. Bye, Wally. I make it to Evergrande City in one piece. Before taking on the Elite Four though, let's take a quick look at Sid. After that EV training extravaganza I had at the very beginning of the run, I have to say, his stats are pretty damn good. I do wish he was a little bit faster, so I'm gonna do some grinding. His HP and attack stats look great, but he won't last long when getting hit by special attacks. Truthfully, I don't even want to attempt the Elite Four until Sid is at least level 85. At least then we'll have a decent speed stat under our belt. So while this grinding is happening on screen, I suppose right now is a good enough time to talk about my fears when it comes to the Elite Four. So, to break it down simply, what am I scared of? All of them. Every single one of them. Anyway, let's just take a look at Sid's stats at level 85 and get the show on the road. Sid's looking a lot better at level 85, and that speed stat is slightly over 100, which was what I was trying to reach for. That was my goal, and now I'm there. And now I have to take on the Elite Four. I'm terrified. Let's go. Elite Four Sydney leads with Mightyena, and luckily Mightyena goes down in one return. Next up is Shiftry. Shiftry only goes for an extra sensory on its free turn, and then goes down to a return as well. It's actually going pretty smoothly. I like it. Shell Bell's also keeping me fairly healthy, so that's a plus. I get Leech Seeded by Cacturn, and I am worried about that because that causes residual damage and healing to the opponent, but it goes down in one return as well. That means only 2 Pokemon remain for Sydney. One is her Crawdaunt. Crawdaunt has paper-thin defenses and only sets up a Swords Dance, so I'm able to take it down next turn with a return. Goodbye, Crawdaunt. Wow, this is going really well. Last but not least is Sydney's Absol. Absol opts to go for a Swords Dance just like Crawdaunt and sees the same exact fate as well. One return will take it down, and that's a victory for our first Elite Four battle. I love it. Time to move on to Phoebe. Phoebe leads with her Dusclops that loves to use Protect, and it loves to PP stall all your moves. It hits me with a Confuse Ray, but on the next turn I break through Confusion and take it out with a Shadow Ball. This is where I lose this attempt. Bayonet comes in. I loaf around, it uses Grudge. I am ignorant to what Grudge does, so on the following turn I take it out with a Shadow Ball, and Sid's Shadow Ball lost all power points due to the Grudge. Fantastic. Time to retry. Attempt number 2, but this time I give Sid a Lepa Berry to hold just in case Grudge takes out all Shadow Ball's PP again. It'll restore 10 of it. But this Dusclops is super annoying this time as it goes for a ton of Protects and things of that nature, but eventually it gets taken down by a Shadow Ball. Bayonet actually goes for Feint Attack this time instead of Grudge, so there's no problem there. Goes down to a Shadow Ball as well. This Sableye. Sableye becomes the new issue. The new brick wall in the run. Or in this battle, rather. It sets up so many double teams. I think it maxes out its evasiveness, and I just can't hit it. I'm a fool though, so I just play through the battle instead of resetting, because if there's a 10% chance to hit, that's still a chance, but I get taken out by a ton of feint attacks. Several attempts later, I realized that I have 6 rare candies in my bag. I used 2 of those to boost Sid up to level 87, that way I could potentially one-shot Sableye, the biggest problem in this battle. So Dusclops goes down, Bayonet comes out and hits me with a feint attack, then goes down to a Shadow Ball, and then next is the Sableye. Sableye comes in and does his very annoying thing. Oh god, it sets up so many double teams that I can't participate in this battle at all. I can't hit it, and I'm starting to pull my own gray hairs out of my head. Finally, I land a Shadow Ball, but it doesn't KO it in one shot. So a full restore is incoming, yay! Luckily another Shadow Ball nails this bastard and crits it and takes it down. Let's go! Bayonet, what are you gonna do? Hit me with a Psychic. Alright, well, you're going down to a Shadow Ball. Ooh, that Sableye. Ooh, that Sableye. Dusclops comes in, hits me with an Ice Beam, and thankfully doesn't freeze me, goes down to one Shadow Ball, and that's a wrap, Phoebe! Ooh, I hate you. Let's go to Glacia. Now. For Glacia, I won't bore you with the failed attempts because there were 3 of them. I finally figure out that I cannot be hit by Icy Wind from this Glalie. So thankfully it goes for Ice Beam on this attempt, and I'm able to take down Glalie and that first Celio with 1 return. I think I should also mention that I used 3 more of my rare candies to boost Sid up to level 90 for this battle after a few attempts, leaving me with 1 rare candy left. I really don't want to go back and retry the Elite Four. Anyway, Celio number 2 goes down to 1 return. Next up is her second Glalie. Ooh, this Glalie is a piece of cake. Oh god! Explosion! Oh, I live. And he did that on a loafing around turn, meaning that Walrein isn't gonna get a free attack on me and goes down to 1 return. Thank you for exploding on me, baby. Wow, this is rough. Time for Drake. Whew, I need to calm down. So I figure I have to use a bulk up on Drake because Intimidate coming from Salamence is gonna be an issue. So I bulk up against Shelgon because it uses Protect all the time. It's like a free bulk up, even though I'm gonna loaf around and hopefully not get hit by Rock Tomb, but he goes for a double Protect, and that's great because I'm able to knock him out with my next return. Then Altaria comes out and dances in front of me and goes down to 1 return as well. Things are looking pretty good. Kingdra comes out and Dragon dances just like Altaria. Why are they always Dragon dancing? He goes down to 1 return too. You know what? I can't complain. Free KOs, right? Flygon comes out next, hits me with a Flamethrower that doesn't do too much damage, so I take it out with a return also. Wow, Drake, the easiest of the Elite Four because of 1 bulk up? There's the Intimidate from Salamence as it comes out, hits me with a Dragon Claw as I loaf around, outspeeds, hits me with another one, and I take it down with 1 return. That's good stuff. Yum yum, delicious free Drake experience. Let's go. And cut. Champion Wallace. It took me 20 tries to finally get this attempt. I was way too stubborn and way too prideful. I didn't want to use Double Team, and I didn't want to use Attract. I also didn't want to grind to level 100 just to beat Champion Wallace. I've seen a couple other challenge runs with Slakoths only, and everybody always forces the level 100 level cap. But I'm pretty sure Sid could do this at level 90. Again, this is attempt number 20, so that doesn't come easily. Wailord went down to 1 return. Tentacruel hit me with a Hydro Pump that did decent damage and then goes down to a return. This Ludicolo did exactly what I needed it to do and went for a double team, and then I hit it with a return to take it out in 1 shot. With all that, my Shell Bell is keeping me healthy. The only thing that's hit me so far is that Hydro Pump from Tentacruel, so I can't complain. Next up is Whiscash. I need it to go for an Amnesia like it does. That way, the next turn I could take it out with 1 return. Everything that has happened so far is exactly what I needed to happen in attempt number 20, which is this one, for this battle to be successful. Whiscash goes down. Next is the greatest threat on Wallace's team, Gyarados. It has Intimidate, so I really need to set up a bulk up, but I need Gyarados really not to move. So he goes for a Dragon Dance, and a second Dragon Dance after outspeeding me. I set up 1 bulk up. Of course, I'm gonna loaf around again, but then he sets up a 3rd Dragon Dance, essentially wasting what he could potentially do to me. I loaf around, but next turn I'm not loafing around as it goes for a 4th Dragon Dance, which is perfect. Everything is gone according to plan. Return takes it down after that bulk up putting me back at neutral attack. Wow. Shell Bell heals me up to almost full as Melodic comes out, and this basically needs to be a 1-shot because Surf does a ton of damage, almost dropping me down to half HP. And will return KO? Yes, it will! That's it, baby! Attempt number 20 versus Wallace. I am successfully the Pokemon Champion with a level 91 Slakoth. Let's go, Sid, my boy. My lazy little boy. Hell yeah. Against all odds and all by himself, Sid makes it into the Hall of Fame at level 91. You know? After I finally beat Wallace on exactly my 20th attempt, I kid you not, I ran into my living room super excited and told my wife I did it. She said, "I knew you didn't have to be level 100, gave me a big high five, and here we are now." I know that sounds kind of silly, but my wife is super supportive of all my weird little hobbies and interests, such as beating Pokemon Emerald version with a Slakoth that can't be taught Attract, Double Team, and can't be level 100. Absolutely ridiculous, but I love it. This whole run was absolutely brutal. It's easily the toughest Pokemon challenge I've ever completed. I think it was much easier since I took the hours upon hours to EV train Sid so early in the run. Unless you guys want to see it, I think it'll be a while before I do another Slakoth only challenge run through a different game. We'll see. Of course, I'm very open to suggestions. If you want to see a specific challenge run, let me know in the comment section down below. Let me know which Pokemon you want me to use and which game you want me to play through. Also, check out my Pokemon Challenge Run playlist, links in the description. There's more runs there, and plenty more to come. I also have a tip jar link in the description as well. If you would like to leave a tip, thank you very much. If not, don't sweat it. Never feel obligated to leave a tip, but if you do, it's incredibly helpful and super appreciated. Anyway, if you enjoyed this crazy journey, hit the like button. It helps a lot. Comment down below, even if it's just for the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe to stay up to date with what I have going on. Remember, you're awesome. I've been Skwizzit. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.